What up, party people of 2020? My name is Jared, and this is the Jared Show Knowledge Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to try and convince you that 2020 is actually a good year. I know, my optimism is showing. It's okay. Whenever it gets too big, I just watch the news. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
The Jared Show.
want to change the world.
Of all the crazy things in the world, of all the sides to pick, of all the idiotic things to, I know what you're saying, 2020 is the worst year ever. It couldn't get any worse, but it probably will because 2020 wants it to and will do anything in its power to make sure the world just completely collapses. I hope you didn't just say all that. But if you did, I'd have to say, take a chill pill, Debbie Downer, and do me a favor. Go check out my website, TheJarredShow.com. It might just pick you back up. And when we get back, I'm going to try to do my best to show you how 2020 could actually be a good year. Hey man, it's California Jimmy, man. I'm living the dream, man. Actually, it was the weirdest thing, man. I woke up today with this rad shirt on. And dude, I totally can't remember how I got it. So I called on my buddy Jack and I was like, Johnson, man, don't be a dick, man, and tell me where I got this gnarly shirt from, bruh. And he was like, dude, you don't remember? We were listening to The Jared, and we went to TheJarredShow.com and scored all kinds of merch. And it showed up yesterday, so you wore it like all day, man. And I was like, whoa, yeah, I wonder what'll show up today, man. Welcome back to my humble little podcast show, and here we go. How is 2020 a good year? Nostalgia, my friends, nostalgia. They say hindsight is 2020, and this year it seems a wave of nostalgia and reflection has washed up on the shores of my mind. Being back in a familiar setting with my dad, although that hasn't always been too much fun. Watching old basketball games. Mining my memories for treasures to share here and other places like medium.com. 2020 seems to be the year of nostalgia for me, and so far I'm enjoying it. Surfing this nostalgic wave is fun as long as I use the surfboard of forward vision. Once I start dwelling on the past, I'd better hold on because I'm headed for a wipeout, man. Looking back on my childhood and mining those memories for lessons has been a great tool as I try to move forward in a new direction. Looking into the past to gain insight is much better than looking back and blaming people for your current situation. Here's the thing, man. No parent is perfect. No teacher is on point every single day. No person has the greatest day of their lives every day, and there are times where we feel the brunt of that bad day from that person, or the stress from that parent parent feels, or the struggle that really is teaching. When we look into the past, we gain insight. To gain insight, we do so objectively. We have to look into the past objectively. That means you don't really want to use a whole lot of feelings when it comes to the past. You have to look into the past and you make a note of what happened. You determine if it was positive or negative, right? Trying not to get too emotional about it. You just look at the facts. What happened? How did it go down? Right? Once you make that determination, you say, then you get to explore the solutions to that problematic situation, especially if they seem to be recurrent. Sometimes it's not the problems that we focus on, it's the good parts that we cling to in the past. This doesn't allow for a forward-thinking mindset, but rather keeps us stuck in the past, always looking back. Imagine a boat in a lake, okay? This boat is being driven by an engine, and the engine is causing what's called a wake. That wake is the past. The boat is the present, and where you're going is the future. Just like in life, you're always moving towards the future. There's no way around it. Having been on many different boats and even driven a few, I can tell you, if I'm looking back at the wake and not where I'm going, it is quite dangerous. Life is much the same. Every once in a while, we have to look back to see what the engine is doing, make sure that it's working properly, and make sure that the wake is still there. Although I'm sure you could probably figure that out if you're not moving forward anymore. Sometimes we have to reevaluate where we have been and then look forward to where we are going. Here's the thing. I'm not perfect. I never claim to be. And I've done some really bad things in my life, some really horrible things. Things I'd like to take back if I had the chance, which I don't have the chance. And life hasn't always been easy or great. Given the chance, I would rather have not done those bad things or went through those hard times. But here's the thing, I wouldn't want to change the lessons I eventually learned from making those mistakes and suffering through that hardship. Wise words. Ready? Perk up your ears. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Meaning, is the pain worth the lesson that you learned? Or is the lesson worth the pain that you endured? I'd have to say in most cases, in my case, in my life, I'd have to say yes. For me, I'd say I'll take the mistake and the hardship and the lesson I learned over the comfort and ignorance any day. Thinking about my past is somewhat cathartic, but for me, it's actually more motivational. A while ago, I came to terms with what has been done to me and what I've done to others. I realized that if I gathered up all the things I've done in my life, it wouldn't be very much. I've tried to do a lot of things and I have a lot of great memories. But memories don't put food on the table. Memories don't allow you to do the things that you want to do later on in life. It's great to look back on and it's great to reminisce, but then that's kind of all you have, Not only that, but a lot of the stuff that I've done probably wasn't that great. So I think if I were to gather up all the things I've done in my life, it wouldn't be very much. And at the end of the day, it wouldn't be very good. I think I could have done things better, and I try to do things better now. Now as I look forward with the knowledge of the past and see a new roaring decade in the 2020s laid out in front of me, I look at it kind of like the people of the 1920s. I think everything they went through, they probably looked at it like, oh no, here we go, this decade's gonna suck. But did it? I think the 20s was one of the best decades we've ever had in the United States. As far as having fun, it was in between two great world wars. It was right before the Great Depression. The 20s was amazing. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's interesting. Actually, we're going to get a little bit deeper into that roaring decade when we get back. Hi, my name is Svet Van Hardman III. I tell you about the Jared. He has show. He speaks, you listen. He shows, you watch. I watch every show. I listen every time. And you should too. Link, description, click. Svet out. Welcome back to the Jared Show Knowledge Podcast. Thanks for listening. So have I convinced you yet? Using the old 2020 hindsight to color the glasses pointed towards the future? No. Well, maybe think about it this way. What if we went back in time and told the people that were coming out of World War I, aka the Great War, that alcohol was about to be banned? You think they'd be very optimistic? You know what's crazy about that is that's actually what made the 20s roar, the 1920s. I tell you, what's interesting, a good thing to think about now, with all this stuff going on. Can you imagine if alcohol was outlawed right now? People would straight up overthrow their governments. And I got to be careful what I say, because the old NSA is probably going to hear that one. But it's true. I mean, people would flip their wig, man. They go crazy. I hope not, but it'd be interesting. You know, what's wild is they actually did that in the 20s. They banned alcohol. What's even more amazing about that is it forced people to get creative. And out of that creativity came amazing things like speakeasies, which were nice nightclubs. You had to have a code word to get in. You knock on there and say, "The dog is yellow," or Tuesday is a good night to be out and about. You'd say, or some weird code word like Jehoshaphat or something, and you had all these amazing nightclubs come out. You had spectacular music. The 20s is when jazz really took over. I mean, it really started hitting its stride, and it was amazing. If you never listen to jazz, or if you don't know some jazz that you ought to listen to, I'll hook you up real quick. So if you've never really listened to jazz, get into some Count Basie. Go check out Louis Armstrong. He's all right. He definitely was an innovator in jazz, and he really changed the game in many different places. But, I gravitate towards people like Glenn Miller, that kind of thing. Things that swing, man. Things that not really about the person, like a Louis Armstrong. It's really about the music itself. Go check that stuff out, man. It's amazing. And if your toe starts tapping, just remember back in the day, those people were swinging. They were dancing up a storm. And in the 20s, man, they had some wild escapades. I mean, speakeasies and jazz music and, outlawed alcohol and just all kinds of stuff. And nowadays, we've seen creativity come out of this pandemic. We've already seen that come out, but I think it's on a much more subtle level. And I think it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of, we're just kind of waiting until things are over. We're like, okay, we'll be creative for a minute, I guess. We got nothing else to do. I'm interested to see what happens when people really start embracing the time spent at home and really get creative. Now, I'm not saying that people haven't done that already. I mean, it's been what, 3 months, 4 months? So I mean, obviously people are doing that, and we're creating all kinds of things. I think there's a thing on YouTube right now, it's a day in the life, and you record your life, and they put it all together. I don't know if you've ever seen, what is it, Joseph Gordon-Levitt? He's got a thing on YouTube where they do a lot of creative projects. If you've never seen that, I'll try to find that somewhere and give a shout out to that properly. But that channel and some of the stuff they do is absolutely amazing. They did a video for the graduates of 2020, and that was an amazing thing. Go check that out. Joseph Gordon-Levitt video about graduates of 2020, something to that effect. You'll see what I'm talking about. It was amazing, and yeah, there's creativity, but I'm talking about what happens when all of us start embracing. What happens when everybody says, okay, screw it, I'm here, that's what I'm doing, that's what's going on, instead of chomping at the bit to get back into whatever kind of normal they thought that was going on. I mean, yeah, it's the summer. We want to go to the beach. We want to go hiking. We want to, get out on four-wheelers. I think we can all do most of those things. I think the real impact and what we're feeling right now is more economic than anything else. But, good old Uncle Sam said he's willing to prop us up for a little while. So, we'll see how that goes. But, I'm interested to see if people can kind of get their mind off of the worry, and maybe stop watching the news every 10 seconds and get into the creativity, embrace the fact of this is what's going on. I'm really interested to see things that are going to be coming out of this pandemic as far as creativity with music. I mean, imagine what some artists are cooking up even as you're listening to this right now. I know I've been more creative with the music that I do. Actually, the song that you hear at the beginning of the podcast and the end and all that stuff, that's actually me. I did all that stuff, every single bit of it. I took a few liberties here and there, but I've been more creative in so many different areas. I think so many people are doing that same thing. Creative with art. I mean, they say if you want people to be more creative, give them restrictions. It's interesting. Imagine all of the creative paintings and sculptures and designs and drawings and so much more mediums of channeling creativity that will come out of all this. I mean, it's amazing. One of those mediums being writing. I know I've been much more creative over the last past couple months. I actually joined a website called medium.com, and it's all about writing. You can write whatever you want. I started writing articles about life and love and lessons I've learned and so much more, basketball and all kinds of stuff. Imagine right now, if I'm getting into that kind of stuff, imagine what, great writers is. I mean, all the Clancy's and all these different writers, what they're doing right now. Imagine all the great books that are about to come out either this year or next because of all this. Creative new forms of work. Imagine what new jobs people are dreaming up right now and new ways to work online through Zoom and many other apps that allow us to communicate safely. Communicate new ways of, expression. Right? Creative new ways of communication and through all different types of apps that are coming out or have come out, or new creative ways people are using the existing apps like TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, podcasting. And how about real authentic communication, person to person, 6 feet apart with mask and gloves on, looking each other in the eye and reading just those eyes. I'm talking about authentic communication. Just imagine. When we come back, I'm going to get into the greatest part of 2020. Something that I think hasn't happened in years, decades even. Hey there, just a quick message to remind you to hit that subscribe button and check out the other podcast, the Jared Show Wisdom podcast. While we have fun on this podcast, if you're looking for something that goes a bit deeper into the existential questions of life, go check it out. You can find both podcasts on my new website, TheJarredShow.com. I hope you'll join me in striving to live this life to its fullest and most meaningful by learning more. Welcome back, 2020 peoples. Let me ask you, what do most people do when they want to repair a relationship? Maybe they take a trip, or they make it a point to sit down and really talk things out, spend time with each other. The Rona V, what I'm calling it, has made us spend more time with those in our own family. I mean, really get to know each other, reconnect the family unit. Dad is not on a business trip or at the local bar for happy hour. Mom is not running around like a chicken with her head cut off, worrying about everything. And you know what? The kids, though they still are in their rooms, even they get bored and wander out into the living room at some point, and guess who's there to talk to them? Their parents and their siblings. Not their friends, not their coach, not their love interest of the week, not their teacher or their principal, but good old mom and dad, or both. That's right, folks. We're getting the band back together. Partridge Family style. I know that's an old reference, but Google it. The family is center stage in this pandemic. Each person trying, learning, leaning on the other family member, not some outside influence. Again, my optimism is showing, I know. Look at the news and you see how crazy people are getting, how families are being ripped apart and destroyed by being around each other so much. And maybe that's true, but maybe it isn't. Maybe the idea that family members can't understand each other anymore is just a myth, a lie told to us through TV, shows, media, movies. A lie told to us through TV shows, movies, music, news, and social media. All of which are trying to gain more of our attention every day. Remember, those sources are trying to get you to pay more attention to them than the attention you're paying to the people around you. Do you really think they are going to tell you to shut off the TV and play a game of Monopoly with your kids or your parents or your brother or sister? You know, now is the time. We've had all this time. You know, people can still go out and do things. I see families all the time now in the neighborhood right behind where I live that are out walking together. They're all over the place. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to see the family given a restart, if you will, given the time to really reconnect with each other. Now, yeah, I mean, with social media, with you know, all the technology we have and all the TV shows out there and the stuff that is trying to gain your attention, the video games and all that stuff, yeah, there's still, you know, things vying for each family member's attention. But I think it's interesting that each family now has this time. You know, they've had 3 solid months of what most people would deem as quality time. Imagine, we used to have family game night, right? Now every night is family game night, right? And yeah, we need to be alone. I get that. I mean, you don't want to be underfoot all the time. But now every night is game night. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen it or not. Pretty good comedian. I'll give him a shout out. Named Jim Gaffigan. There's certain things that he says I'm not really on board with, but a lot of what he's saying is funny. I happen to catch him and his family. I don't know if they still do this. I hope so. But him and his family, they live in New York City, and they are sequestered. They are locked down. I think they still are. I haven't checked in on it in a couple weeks, but they do this thing. I think it's every night, where they have dinner on camera, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Maybe it's every Sunday night. I can't remember. But and you know, you've probably seen Jim Gaffigan have his updates and all that stuff on the Sunday morning news show or whatever that's called. I always remember it with Charles Carroll, so now it sounds different to me when I say it. But Sunday morning with Charles Carroll, right? But yeah, go check out Jim Gaffigan and his family. I mean, what a great unit, what a tight family. And you know, I'm sure they have their problems. I'm sure they annoy the piss out of each other. I get that, but at the same time, they're a family. You know, they sit around the dinner table, they joke, they have fun. It's something that, you know, I think this pandemic has given us a chance to really get back to. You know, it's really given us a chance to reconnect with each other. And maybe it's not your family. Maybe it's your roommates. Maybe it's, you know, whatever. You know, maybe it's you and your coworkers. You know, we have these frontline people that are out there doing their best, and you know, there for a little while. You know, where I live now is kind of reopened quite a bit, but there for a little while, they were the only people out there doing their thing. You know, and they really, as coworkers going through the struggle together, they really, I think, bonded. You know, I think a lot of people had that chance to bond. They were the only people out there doing their thing, you know. I think this pandemic has given us a good chance to bond, to form strong ties, to form, you know, that reconnection that I think the family really desperately needed. I think we've all been drifting so far apart in each family. The kids are doing their thing, and the parents are doing their thing, and that generation gap has gotten enormous since even the 60s. I mean, the 50s, it wasn't really that big a deal, but you go into the 60s, and that generation gap gets humongous. It's a chasm. I mean, it's the Grand Canyon. But I think even now, I mean, that generation gap has still gotten bigger. I think it's as big as it's ever been, if not bigger. Between some of the ridiculous music out there nowadays. I might show my age on this one, but listening to stupid stuff like Gucci Gang and Lil Pump and all these idiots out there, ridiculous, man. And that's what kids are listening to, and the teenagers. That's not all teenagers. I've seen some good guys, some good young adults that are really interested in really good music. Not just stuff like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, but really just good music. Dave Matthews Band and some of the stuff in the 90s, and even some of the rap. I mean, if you listen to some of DMX stuff, he's got some actually godly music. It's amazing if you actually listen to it. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that we get this chance now to reconnect and really see where we're at with each family member. I think brothers and sisters get an idea of where they're at, and they get to share with each other and these kind of things. I think parents get to reconnect with themselves, and find that spark again. I think parents and children get to really have the time to feel each other out, and not be a weekend where they've got to pack in all the stuff that they need to do and get done that weekend. Or they only have this little retreat, and this little retreat lasts for like a week, and then it's over, and they're just kind of waiting until it gets over. I mean, I think now, it's been 3 months. I think it's amazing. I think the bottom line here with all of this is 2020 is actually a good year, despite what the TV and movies, news, and social media say. I think we all needed some time to reflect, personally, just ourselves. I think we all needed a break from the rat race. Here's the thing, don't get me wrong. I'd like to not have to wear a mask out in public. I'd like all of those that were sick to be healed. And I mourn the loss of so many people that have died this year during this pandemic. But we all needed some time to reconnect to ourselves, to God, to our families. We needed desperately to get the family back together again. And I think this is the time. This is the time that we've had to do that. And, chances are we're probably going to have a little bit more time on our hands. So if you're listening to this and you haven't taken that time to do so, I encourage you to do so. Take the time, reconnect, talk to your kids, talk to your parents, talk to your siblings, your sister, your brother, your cousin. Talk to these people and reconnect to these people. What else you got to do? Are you going to binge watch everything on Netflix all day? I mean, come on. You got more things to do. You got better things to do, right? I tell you what, talking about the family, what's interesting, in the next episode, I want to get into how the family got broken down, little by little, and piece by piece. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it helped you gain a sunny disposition and allowed you to see the bright side of life. Go ahead and subscribe for more. New episodes every Sunday and Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I always want to say specific. And also, don't forget about the other podcasts now. The Jared Show Wisdom Podcast, episode 4, coming out tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I'm going to go ahead and say it. If you got some extra time on your hands due to the old Rona V, go check out my new website, TheJarredShow.com. There you'll find all my stuff, links to Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And yeah, you can listen to some old shows if you feel like. Thank you so much for listening to this show. And as always, may God bless you.
The Jared Show.